Okay, so here we are at the start of 2023. Just thought I'd do a quick walkthrough before pulling all this down. This is second year. Starting back in 2021, we only had the icicles, the star, and the canes. And then this year we've expanded to some roof lines, this hedge matrix, some arches, mini trees, and chroma presents. My general topology is I've got a Falcon F48 powered by X-Schedule, and then just a bunch of smart receivers scattered throughout the place, which we'll see, and then a 24 volts going everywhere with just local DC to DC step downs where needed. So we've looked at one of the additions for this year. We've got the hedge matrix, which just consists of a whole bunch of square nodes pushed into some bird wire just grabbed from Bunnings. And then there's about, I think, 600 across the top and then 900 down the side. Each runs of 100. And we've just got one of these smart receiver boxes down here, which basically has a little DC to DC to drop the 24 volts down to 12 volts in this case, because here we've got GS8208 nodes, which I think is what I'll be using going forward. And then just a little smart receiver, but operating in dumb mode here. And then at the other end of the matrix, we've just got a another box to do some power injection, but this just has a DC to DC plus a little fuse block, which I don't think I'll be using in the future. And then just a whole bunch of power injection tees along here. Alright, so if we go back down to the front wall with the arches and little mini trees. So basically, once again, we've just got the 24 volts and the RS485 signal coming here, and then just underneath these guys, this off here, we've just got another one of those boxes with smart receiver and a DC to DC to hold these trees in place. Actually just have a bit of conduit at the back with a little 3D printed bracket held in by tent pegs, and that's just basically a modification of the foot used on the arches here, which is also a little 3D printed thing. So we've got 70 nodes, so 50 in the tree, 20 in the star, and then about 120 nodes of strip in the arches. And what I found with this one was this would all work perfectly fine up to about halfway through the last arch, and then I'd get flickering because of the voltage drop. So I basically just have power and data going at the start, everything is connected up in series, and then there's just a little DC injection, which looks like I'm injecting at this tree here and finishing off the rest of the way. On the other side we've got a few more arches and mini trees, and same sort of thing where just got the power and data coming in to a little smart receiver, and then flowing through. I think I've got an extra power injection point on this due to the additional trees. Try to avoid the white coral look, so we actually grabbed a UV flatbed printer at work, which allowed me to sort of print a bit of a tree texture onto these guys, and just a little bit of a sparkly texture on the stars. Yeah, I think it sort of makes things look a little bit neater. And up to the chroma presents. These ones here, we just sort of sprayed the ribbons to give them a bit of a better look during the daytime. But once again, we've just got a little smart receiver with DC to DC powering those. In this case here, we are using a smart receiver mode because it actually it feeds in from the initial one is up the top here for the icicles, comes down into a second one here just to do these presents and some other props which I'll add in next year, and then that one just feeds around to the trees and arches down the front. So for power, we've got 24 volts everywhere throughout. And I just made up a couple of these boxes where it's just got a main wall supply, room for a second one, and a little Wi-Fi power control switch which allows it to be turned on and off from the main cabinet, which we'll get to in a minute. And then yeah, here this gives us a little reading of power usage and whatnot. It's one of the little son-off devices. I think they're only about, it costs about somewhere between $10 to $20. It was a pretty good bargain for this kind of application. A bunch of 3D printed brackets to hold everything in place. And yeah, just feeds going out. These guys here, my intention this year was to move everything to the GS8208, just for the better performance, the color rendering, and in case of any failures and so forth. But I had ordered pretty much everything as square nodes and found out that for these kind of things, especially when going through multiple layers of Coro, that's a no-go. So these are actually repurposed WS2811s, which I actually pulled out of the canes from last year. So at least we've got those operational. The canes, something similar. These were in our 2021 show, but I just replaced them this year with square nodes. You'll see that they don't protrude as far, but they still look perfectly fine. And yeah, these are now the 12 volt GS8208 as opposed to the WS2811, which we used last year. So effectively, the only thing which I was going to keep as the WS2811 at 5 volts was the icicles. Yeah, but as I just had to reuse some here because this the shape of those might happen to have. And if we go around with these icicles, basically every 2 sections I've got a smart receiver. So you'll see here, same sort of thing as before. Data's fed one channel going that way, one channel going that way, power at this end, and then I just got a single injection point at the other end, and that seems to work perfectly fine even with all these icicles at 5 volts. And then these are just held on with, I'm not sure you can see it, little magnet mounts onto the gutter, and then that fishing line there was just as a safety in case the magnets gave way to hold the conduit up there, but it doesn't seem to have been needed. So yeah, anyway, and then once again, over here, another smart receiver box going this way, and the other section going this way, and actually doing this little short return. And then the last smart receiver box, which we saw before, well, it just goes this way, and then also up over the gable. We've got a little tune to sign down here, which is just basically 6 P5 panels, sorry, P6 panels, and that's just got 24 volts going into it, along with a Raspberry Pi and a hat to drive those. I think next year I will convert that to just a color light because it looked like it mostly worked well, but it was just a little bit flickery from time to time. And then we just got another smart receiver box here. This guy is doing the just doing the canes at this stage, and probably some more that we'll do here next year. And then once again, that's got the output is going down to the arches and mini trees down the front. Now, what do we do for audio? We just had a couple of little speakers here, little outdoor speakers, just cheapies, but they do a pretty good job. And I'm lucky enough not to have any houses on the other side, so I can turn it up without disturbing too many people. And from the neighbours on that side, I tell myself at least that this wall seems to block the sound, keeps it quiet for them, and these guys on this side don't seem to mind. If we go look at the main control box now, we've got here, this was one of the main additions this year to try and tidy things up, because in the first year I basically just had the main wall supply and the F48 and ran directly from the F48 before they became hard to get. And yeah, they were just sitting in the CG 1500 enclosure in the pantry, but thought we'd do it properly this year. So effectively, I've got power coming in just to a main switch, and then just a little, we've got this 12 volt supply here, which is always on, and that just powers the little mini ITX board there, which is running X schedule, and then up to the Falcon F48 to send a signal everywhere. And then, so this is all always on, and then this little Wi-Fi switch here basically controls power to this stack of meanwhile supplies, which are 24 volters, and they're the ones that sort of run out to the garden everywhere. And then just a little step down here to have the amp, the speakers at the front, and just the FM transmitter switched as well. I've got a nice plate for the top of that, which I was going to do nice terminations on and so forth, but so time got away, so it's just a big mess of cables up there, but that's something that I should tidy up for next year. So yeah, so just everything going up into the roof there, but I was going to put some nice ducting and yeah, something to do for next year, we just ran out of time. The FM transmitter, I've just brought the antenna out the side here just to get it out of the metal case, and then also I'm using Wi-Fi, built-in Wi-Fi on this motherboard just as a soft AP, which in this case controls this guy, but then also the other remote power which we saw on the other side of the house, plus another one halfway along that does all the power for the roof. Generally worked quite well. I was just using Xschedule to send MQTT commands out to these guys to turn them on and off, other than the fact that this range from here to on the other side of where the main switchboard is on the other side of the house there just was a bit too far, and I sort of had intermittent signal. So on several nights I was going out there just to manually press this little button on the other side to get that to turn on. Just chucked a couple of fans in, exhaust fans at the top with some grills down the bottom just to keep the airflow when this is all closed up. And these guys are just running off the fan header on the F48 down there. What else is interesting? So I'm just using the onboard audio out of this guy going to here. I have the front and rear channels duplicated to the two devices with a view that I could use Xschedule to adjust the rear volume just to the amp at night time, but leave the FM transmitter with the same volume level. I never actually got around to that this year, so that's something to add in for next year. But yeah, that's probably about the show in a nutshell, and looking forward to adding to this for 2023. We've got plenty of room for expansion there, and I'm sure there will be some. Thank you.